This is the Chiropractic Marketing Podcast, an on-demand talk radio show that covers internet marketing best practices for chiropractors. I'm your host, Dr. Patrick McNamara. Welcome, everyone, to episode number 79 of the Chiropractic Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Patrick McNamara, and today we're talking about something that most chiropractors don't realize is already affecting them, and that is whether their website is actually readable by AI, and what happens when it isn't. I want to start with a scenario that is playing out in chiropractic markets all over the country right now. A prospective patient picks up their phone and asks ChatGPT, "Who's the best chiropractor for sciatica near me?" They don't get a page of links to scroll through. They get an answer, a specific practice, a specific reason, sometimes a phone number, all pulled from web content that the AI has already read, evaluated, and decided to trust. That answer didn't come from a social media post. It didn't come from reviews, at least not directly. It came from a website. Specifically, a website that was built in a way that AI could read, understand, and feel confident citing. And if your website wasn't built that way, you weren't in the conversation. That's what we're unpacking today. What does AI readiness actually mean for a chiropractic website? What makes the difference between a practice AI recommends and one it skips over entirely? And why does all of this have to be decided at the build stage, not 6 months after you launch, when you've already noticed your competitors showing up in places you don't? So let's start with a precise definition, because this phrase gets used loosely. An AI-ready chiropractic website is one that AI systems like Google's AI Overviews, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and voice assistants, for example, can read accurately, understand in context, and cite with confidence. That requires 3 things working together. The first is structured data, which you'll hear referred to as schema markup. Schema is machine-readable code embedded in your website that tells search engines and AI exactly what your practice is, where it's located, what conditions you treat, who the doctor is, and what patients can expect when they walk through your door. Without it, AI has to guess. And when AI guesses, it gets things wrong. Or it skips you and picks a practice it can read more clearly. The second is content architecture that AI can actually navigate. AI systems don't read your website the way a patient does. They process it structurally, heading levels, direct answers near the top of each section, question and answer patterns that mirror how patients actually ask. A page that looks polished and professional but buries the useful information 3 scrolls down is not going to get cited. AI needs the answer up front in a format it can extract. The third is technical performance. Core web vitals, mobile rendering, clean crawl paths, fast load times. These aren't just ranking factors for traditional search. They are trust signals. AI draws from the same index content that Google values. A slow, bloated, or poorly structured site gets crawled less thoroughly, which means there's less for AI to draw from when it's assembling an answer about chiropractors in your city. And here's the critical point. These 3 elements have to be built in from the start. You cannot layer them onto an existing website after the fact and get the same result. Let me explain why that's true. Schema markup isn't something you fix on one page. It has to be implemented consistently across your entire site. The home page, every condition page, the about page, every article you've published. Inconsistent schema creates conflicting signals, and conflicting signals are actually worse than no schema at all. Getting it right on a live site means auditing every single page, fixing conflicts, retesting, and doing all of it without disrupting the site patients are currently visiting. That's expensive, it's slow, and even when it's done well, it's incomplete. Core web vitals are even more tied to the build. The scores your website gets aren't determined by a setting you can switch. They're a function of how the site was constructed, the theme architecture, the hosting environment, how images are handled, how fonts load, how scripts execute. A site built without performance in mind can be improved at the margins, but the ceiling is set at build time. Content architecture is the hardest of all to retrofit. If your condition pages are short generic summaries, which describes the overwhelming majority of chiropractic websites out there, rewriting them to the depth AI requires means essentially rebuilding them. If your heading structure wasn't set up to answer specific patient questions directly, restructuring that means touching pages that may already have some search history behind them. Every change carries risk. The practices that show up consistently in AI-generated answers aren't the ones who upgraded their existing sites after the fact. They're the ones whose sites were built correctly from day one. Now let me show you what correct actually looks like page by page. On the home page, you need organization schema with the practice name, address, phone number, website URL, and service area. Local business and medical business types specified. Links connecting the site to the Google Business Profile, Facebook, and any other verified profiles. The home page is the identity layer. It establishes who you are and where you are in terms AI can read without ambiguity. On every condition page, neuropathy, sciatica, disc herniation, shockwave therapy, prenatal care, whatever you actively treat and want to attract patients for, each page needs its own URL, its own H1 that includes the condition name and content that actually answers the questions patients are asking. These condition pages are what AI cites when a patient asks about a specific problem they're dealing with. A generic conditions we treat list with 8 conditions named and nothing else isn't a citation source. A dedicated page that goes 3 or 4 screens deep on neuropathy, what it is, how chiropractic addresses it, what patients can expect, that's what gets recommended. On the About page, you want person schema for the doctor, name, credentials, position, education, a professional image. This is one of the most consistently overlooked elements on chiropractic websites, and it matters enormously for AI. AI systems that are evaluating whether to trust and recommend a practice look for evidence that the content comes from a real credentialed person. The About page, built with the right schema, is that evidence. And on blog articles, you need author markup on every post, consistent topic clustering that reinforces the practice's expertise in specific areas, and internal links connecting articles back to the relevant condition pages. Blog content isn't just for traditional search rankings. It builds the topical depth that AI uses to determine whether a site is authoritative on a given subject. Now here's the reality of where this is heading. In any given chiropractic market, only a handful of practices are going to be recommended consistently by AI-powered search. The ones that make that list tend to have condition-specific pages that go deeper than anyone else in their market, schema implemented correctly across the entire site, doctor attribution with verifiable credentials, geographic signals that are clear and consistent, fast mobile optimized performance, and a content history that shows ongoing expertise. The practices AI ignores have generic content, no schema, no author attribution, and pages that might look fine on the surface but don't give AI anything solid to cite. The gap between those two groups is widening, and because there are only so many spots at the top of AI-generated results for any given city, the window to be the practice that got built right from the start doesn't stay open indefinitely. If you've been thinking about what your website actually needs to do in today's search environment, not just rank in the 10 blue links, but show up in AI answers, voice search results, Google AI overviews, I'd encourage you to check out the episode I did on AI clinic optimization, which I've linked in the show notes. That episode goes deeper on the ongoing visibility side of this equation. And if you want to know what the full strategy looks like once the right foundation is in place, the traffic, the authority building, the search everywhere optimization work that runs on top of a well-built platform, I've linked to DCRank in the show notes as well. That's the next chapter for practices ready to scale beyond the website itself. But this episode is about the foundation, and the foundation has to be right before any of that other work can do what it's supposed to do. If your current website wasn't built with AI readiness in mind, and most weren't, the right conversation to have is whether your market is still available. The platform I manage through chiropractic marketing websites works with one practice per market. That means if a competitor in your area claims that spot first, the conversation is over for you, at least with us. If you'd like to learn more or see if your market is still available, head on over to chiropracticmarketingwebsites.com. That's chiropracticmarketingwebsites.com. All right, that wraps things up for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Chiropractic Marketing Podcast. Before you go, remember to subscribe to my podcast on your favorite platform, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Audible, YouTube Podcasts, Spotify, or others. I've got you covered. If you need to see a full list of supported platforms, simply visit chiropracticmarketingpodcast.com. Last but certainly not least, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Apple Podcasts. Your reviews not only help build awareness of what I'm talking about, but also give me a good indication of how I'm doing. Be nice, be fair, but definitely be honest. I would greatly appreciate it, and so will future listeners. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.